How important is it to control what people are saying behind your back in business? Find out on today's episode of the Knowledge Boner Experience. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Knowledge Boner Experience. As always, I have my co-host Fung and Wally here. What's up, guys? How you guys doing today?
Yo,
What's up?
what up, Knowledge Boner crew? Hope everybody's doing well. Had an awesome week.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks since we were able to go and record an episode. I don't have my good mic today. I'm not sure why it's working, so I'm busting out the handy dandy headset today for the recording's sake. So hopefully everyone can hear me clearly. But today's gonna be a very cool topic. Before we kind of hit record here, we were kind of brainstorming some ideas and talking about it, and Fung brought up the subject of reputation, because we had something cool happen recently in terms of like a referral for a possible business deal, and so we just got on the subject of reputation and how important it is, because it's definitely something that needs to be talked about, right? Because one thing that I like about reputation that people like Alex Shmozy bring up is he's a really, really good point. And he says, you have good reputation, but behind the scenes, why a lot of people can't actually grow in marketing is because if you have a bad reputation, how much it multiplies can actually hurt you and hurt the marketing. Right. So you could be like spending dollars and putting all this energy and effort in marketing and have a negative reputation behind the scenes that's just growing and growing and catching up. And that's damaging you. You have no idea. And you're just wondering what the hell's going on with marketing. Right. And it just takes that one time of someone seeing an ad. And I see this in comments all the time. Right. When I get ads on my newsfeed, I can go in and be like, one person will go and say something and people will comment on, be like, oh my gosh, really? Did this really happen? And there's just this whole wall of people being like, nope, I had a bad experience. I don't recommend them because of this. And people take it to heart, right? Reviews can definitely hurt you. So it could be a really, really cool, interesting topic. And so from y'all's day and activity and you guys interacting, have y'all seen this happen with anyone close to you recently as well?
Yeah, actually. So I'll take the forefront with this a little bit, and so this actually has nothing to do with specifically your business, but this does have to do with your reputation personally, which can affect your business overall, if that makes sense. Is that clear in terms of how I kind of said that?
For sure.
Yeah. So one thing in particular is, and I'm not going to call names. I'm not going to point anybody out. That's totally rude, and I will not do that. But this is an individual that's in, I wouldn't say in my circle, but in the circles that I frequent. And this particular person, they've built a reputation of let's just say unsafe for women, right? Let's just say that.
What?
And what I mean by this is that instead of pretty much the biggest thing about being a guy, right, is you want to be able to make sure that people feel safe around you, right? Anybody in general. They need to be able to be open. They need to be able to share their feelings, their thoughts, and all these things like that, right? And especially for women. And so there's one guy in particular. He's doing a lot of things that kind of build him a reputation of being somebody that's not safe for women, if that makes sense.
But when you say not safe, like you don't mean like physically. You just like you're talking like emotionally safe, like just
emotionally safe.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Not physically, not like harming people or anything like that, but more like not a safe container. Right.
Gotcha.
Not somebody that you go hang out with, not somebody that you invite to parties, not somebody that you go and you do extra things with, right? This is somebody they strictly will only talk to this person in public settings because of this reputation, right? And it has to do with how he is approaching females, right? He's hitting on all of them. He's not like being just, he's just being very, very sleazy. He's getting in group settings and hosting his own events and still like being unsafe for different women around him, just kind of like almost like preying on them, right? And even though like right now it's one of those scenarios where it's kind of he said, she said, right? But the he said, she said turns into word of mouth, which then gets to all people's friends, and then all of a sudden you're wondering why, which is why you're wondering, oh, why don't I get invited to parties, or why don't I get invited to birthday parties, or why didn't I get invited to this event or this dinner? And it's like,
That's So interesting. But so good. This is perfect to kind of dive into in reputation. And you're right. It has a negative connotation, because then if people assume that that's the rap and you don't associate with it, then you don't get into other inner circles, and not to mention you don't even know what's being said. But my question is, in this case, right? What if the guy has no idea that maybe he's just oblivious to it, right? Like if he's around and other women are assuming that, hey, I don't want to be around him, or whatever, or it's not a safe space, or whatever you want to call it. And what if he's just oblivious to it and legitimately has no idea he has that reputation, right? So, do you think that in that case that he should just be made aware of it so he can pivot before the damage gets worse? Or is this something to where like he knows and he just doesn't care?
Yeah, so I think it's right in the middle. I think that one, that he's aware of what he's doing, but I don't think that he is aware of how other people perceive those things, if that makes sense. And the other one is the intention, right? Once somebody has questions about your intentions, like why you're talking to them, like why are you speaking to me, like why, you know what I mean? Like once they have questions about your intentions, then a whole lot of problems start to happen, right? Because then it's like almost like not, I wouldn't say predatory, but it's just like they are always questioning your motives whenever you do something. You know what I mean? Like, oh, why are you nice to me? Oh, it's, well, obviously want something.
Yeah.
Oh, why are you? It becomes a very transactional relationship with most people, and so then everybody's like on guard.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those things where it's you keep that person always at arm's length, right? It's not like, when you see someone you've known for a while and you come up and give them a big old bear hug, right? Like, oh my gosh, so good to see you, even though it's been like a couple of days, right? You're very cordial, you're very polite, you don't have that type of connection with that person once you've built a bad reputation, right? And it's very hard to recover from, because for this particular individual, right, it's patterns, right? And what a lot of people probably don't think about, or they probably know but don't really think about in detail, is that women talk.
Like, yeah. That's where let's just call it what it is. That's where the quadratic damage comes from. The gossip
like
chain is just boom.
Yeah, and it could just take one bad experience, one bad thing, in order to just send you down the spiral, and then all of a sudden everyone is aware of the things that you're doing, and then they'll only be polite and cordial with you, but then they won't take the initial step any longer to be like, oh, like I can refer this person's business, or I can invite them out to a function, and then things won't be weird, right? Like there's no creepy feelings, there's no predatory.
I'm gonna hop in real quick right where you said that, because it's personal integrity, right? It's like that whole idea of look, like if this person isn't personally, like their integrity isn't in check, then why would I deal with them in business, or why would I deal with them in any other setting? You know what I mean? And it's just like it's that what happens right there. Like your personal reputation can then damage your business reputation too, right? Because you could be very, very good at what you're good at, right? You could have the best skills, you could be amazing, but if your reputation sucks and people don't like you, and they think that you are not a good fit for the people around them, then they're going to be less likely to do anything with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Not only not get referrals, but if a referral happens and then, it takes one person to be like, oh, whoa, I heard this and this about that person. Here's why I don't recommend it. Then you're just like, oh, holy crap. Right. The kind of that negative reputation can definitely hurt for sure. And I think just for context, everyone listening, I had no idea that this subject was going to be coming up, nor do I absolutely know who they're talking about. I'm assuming I do, but if it's the same person, there was an interaction where I remember being at y'all's event where afterwards I was like, okay, that was weird what one person had said, because the first thing that came in my mind was no integrity. I was like, who the heck comes to an event and then steps up and then says that, and then goes in and pitches their own thing? That's kind of, but the way it was phrased kind of threw rocks at what you guys were doing, basically saying, hey, we do it this way, screw this way. And so if it's the same person, I 100% can see where that would come from, because I was literally, and I've, never met this individual before. It's literally my first year, we talk first impressions, right? So my first impression was I was just sitting there just kind of dumbfounded, like, and it was, I know it made it awkward. I was like, does this guy really just say what I think he did? Is this a joke? What's going on? And then, afterwards Fung's like, oh no, that's exactly how it was meant. And so, it's just baffling that people just don't care about how they would be viewed in those, or maybe it's just negligence. Maybe they genuinely just don't know. Maybe this is how they're raised. I don't know.
I think that's part of it too. And then the other thing is like, when you're building reputation, one thing that's super important, and this is like from the 48 laws of power, right? But you never want to, it's like the law is you never want to outshine the master. But in this case, right, like the person that has been around, that has a network and different things like that, you definitely don't want to like piss off this person or rub them the wrong way, because their network directly affects you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And yeah, that's a good, do you agree with that rule on the never outshine the master and the 48 laws of power?
I 100% do. I think that you're allowed to outshine the master as long as you give the master the honor, if that makes sense.
Appropriate credit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Appropriate credit is due. You're allowed to be however you want, but if you're not doing that, then no.
Yeah, I agree with that, because there's case where you guys know a buddy of mine I'm helping. We're doing like training and stuff, and he called me and asked me, he's like, hey, how would you handle this one situation if a prospect says this to you? And I told him exactly how I would do it. And he went and did it, and then worked, and then went to his organization. And then the sales manager was like, how did you come up with this? He goes, oh yeah, I thought about it on the fly. And I was like, dude,
yeah, that's messed up.
he's like, well, I don't want to bring you up yet, blah. I'm like, but still, man, give credit where credit's due. Come on, man. What are you talking about? You taking ownership for my stuff. Come on. So I guess I could see in that case, as long as you're giving credit where credit was due, of how it can kind of like, it's kind of abrasive. I guess that's a good word for it, and those type of, and we're I know in our circle, we're really good at always giving credit towards each other. But I think in terms of like reputation, it's hard, I think, for some people to put up blinders, or to control the blinders of feedback, of understanding of like, hey, this is how some people feel. I think you can come back from it. Right. I think it's possible to come back from it, build a name, and then obviously like undo a reputation. If someone's listening to this, maybe they're just, maybe you're in a position of something you can't control. Right. We all have that one individual, he who shall not be named, that we know of, where we have our own little like personal bubble of people, who's going out scamming people. Right. But on the flip side, we can't control what is said from that individual, even though we know that that's the one who's doing wrong. Right. So it's like, then the question comes, what can you do? I mean, you guys don't know what's being said, right? For all there could be this little trickle going around the city of whoever he interacts with, saying who knows what about you guys and the story and whatever. So, what do you do in those cases? Just, obviously we have no control over those, but if you're in that situation, the best you can do is just be the best version of yourself they possibly be, right?
Yeah,
exactly. You literally be so good that you're undeniable, right? Like you help the people get the results that they're looking for, then it really shuts the naysayers up, right? Whatever story is being told, then you're like, oh, well, he actually puts his money where his mouth is, right? Like he's not gossiping, he's not talking shit, right? He's not, doing people wrong and going out and finding all these leads and then like not fulfilling anything. Like no, he's actually, for us, example, right? Like we're being a part of the community and we're helping the people around us, and we're actually helping people thrive, and we're not taking like a single dollar, and we're very upfront with people and said, this is a brand recognition thing. Like we want to help you because we genuinely want to help you, right? Why there's over 7 billion people in the world. Why am I trying to make money off of my neighbors right here, right? Like why don't we all make money off the people around us, right? That's a different solution. And then you by having that message, at least on our forefront, has actually built our own reputation around here, right? Like, and also with our own clients and things like that. People who are in Dallas, we're in Florida now, but people who are in Dallas still refer us business because of like all the work that we did in the community over there. That's just that's just reputation built.
Yeah, you just got referred a client super recently from one of our oldest clients, from Orlando, swim school, right? Like we helped them like 3 years ago, and it's like, and now like you're still getting referrals from them, right?
Yeah, and then not only that, this referral, was a former pro athlete for 18 years in the motocross space. So this is like, all right, cool. I'll take it. Thank you. Appreciate it. That's a really high profile client to me. Thank you. And I wouldn't have gotten that deal had it not been the reputation that we did with our previous client in Orlando, right? Like building the systems for her, helping her with their events and being there, right? Just being a good person in general and answering the questions that she has because we want her to get the best results possible.
Yeah, which leads to question kind of tips on how can you keep a good reputation, right? And for me, one thing I do, especially like being in sales, is sometimes like it. I think in order to have a good reputation and to maintain it, you have to have thick skin, right? Even if you're having a conversation with somebody and something they say you don't agree with or rubs you wrong, and you want everything to always end on good terms, no matter what, and be able to control your emotions to the point where you don't blow up. So like, and I'll give you guys a very brief example. I was in a situation recently where I was on a call with this lady, and oh man, she was amazing. I loved like everything that she had going on, what she was doing. Tons of breakthroughs on the call, and she's empowered and wants to help women in the African American community, right? But what's interesting is during this conversation beforehand, I gave an example. I was watching an interview with Kevin Hart, and I'm a huge Kevin Hart fan, right? He's actually one of the role models I look up to in terms of business, because ever since I saw the interview with him and Patrick Bet-David and learned more about Kevin and his, how entrepreneurially he is, I've always just been a fan. He hustles and he grinds, right? And she had said something which made me think of like the interview, and I used him as an example, and she goes, oh, you know what, you're right. I need to put myself first so I can go and help impact. That was the whole meaning of the story. I was like, hey, before Kevin Hart went to help people in poverty, he became Kevin Hart, right? He was selfish first to be selfless later, because if he would have tried to save everyone else and get the knowledge out there, it wouldn't have worked. It's like he had to become Kevin first, right? So later I received this email, and she didn't want to move forward because she went through our case studies and she didn't see enough African American case studies. And so I was really taken aback by that when I read it, because one of our biggest case studies is an actual African American female. She's actually our biggest case study, and we have more. I just didn't think it relevant during the conversation to bring up every person that we have based off of their skin color. Because to me, I don't give a damn. Right. It's like, I think that if anyone has a good offer, good messaging, good audience, they could be successful, like by skin color, even relevant. Right. Like, who cares? But what's interesting is her belief was that because we don't have it, she didn't feel like that we can help serve her, which I thought was really interesting. But one other thing she said, she thought that I brought up Kevin Hart as a tactic. Basically, she made like a comment on it, like, oh, you're really smart to bring up Kevin Hart and say this and say that. And I'm sitting there reading this email, and I found myself at first, this is what I mean by thick skin. Like I immediately got rubbed the wrong way and was a little bit offended, because I took it as, man, she thinks that just because that she's Black, that I purposely brought up this story to kind of match. And that wasn't, I literally just watched the interview with him on the subject of this like 2 hours before the call. And I've always been a huge Kevin Hart fan. So it was like not a thing, right? So I'm going through my whole response to this, and I told myself, I was like, okay, do I really want to go on and try to reframe this? Is it worth it that she has this belief? Like, I didn't have the time, energy, effort to even go. I didn't want to dispute it. I didn't want to argue it. Didn't want anything to be confrontational. So I just told her, hey, if you don't feel like this is good for you, like 100%, I agree. Timing is everything, and I wish her the best. And I brought up how I'm a Kevin Hart fan, and I took one word out. The word was literally. I'll say I'm literally one of his biggest fans, but I felt even the word literally, I felt like could be confrontational. So I workshopped this whole email afterwards and said it, and it was like, customer service pristine, right? And it was hard. Like it was hard for me to do it this way. So you guys know, like I wanted to like debate it and been like, I can't, that blah, blah, blah. But my rule of thumb is I always want to end with every single person on good terms, to where like they just had a great experience. They remember the good. There's not even an inkling of a chance for confrontation, no matter what. Right. And so, and there's some other people on our team who can't control their emotions in sales. Literally, if something is confrontational, they blow up. Right. Like literally, they just can't control it. So, Laura was like, she read the email and she's like, dude, I want you guys to go over this with a team, because some people don't know how to like do it this way. And this is how I want everybody, having a code of integrity, no matter what the situation. Right. And I think that's what it comes down to, is code of integrity is the key here.
Yep.
It's like, having a customer service mentality with every single person, despite your differences and beliefs or what happened, even if someone rubs you the wrong way. Right. And you're here to have business, and always having that word of mouth reputation is very, very like important to me. I don't want there to ever be, I don't even want to give anyone the power and opportunity to ever be like, oh yeah, well, I had a call with this guy and he was just, even if they were in the wrong, they're going to spin it. Right. I don't even give them the power. The only thing they remember is just like, wow, he was super nice and still wishing me the best. And, has that opening, and was there to support me in the future. Right. So that's what I think of is in terms of getting a good reputation long term, which is, it's not easy. It's not easy.
No, not at all. I'll chime in real quick just to piggyback on your story here, essentially, right? Of like having that top quality in customer service and integrity. I'll just kind of sum it up in one phrase. And since we're from the South, right? We're based on Southern hospitality, and we always leave things better than when we found it. Right. That has been the phrase that has like spurred on my career in the last 3 years of like, when someone comes into my business and ecosystem, I want them to leave better than when they found it. Right. Like that is the mentality that I have on it, whether it's personal decision, business decision, some sort of tactic or anything like that. And if we don't even do business together, right, I want that reputation of like, this may not work for us, but here's my recommendations and suggestions based on my experience, because I just want you to go into the next conversation, whoever you do business with, with an understanding of what's going to happen, right? So that way you're not overcharged, you're not, undervalued your own business services, things like that. So always leaving the situation better than when I found it has been like a thing of mine since, as a kid. Me and Wally, we lived out in the middle of the sticks. We wanted to go hang out. You want to go hang out with your best friend, but they live like 30, 40 minutes away. You're just like, well, how do I get invited back to that situation so I can keep coming back? Well, you leave the situation always better than when you found it, having those etiquette, having those manners. And that's essentially what's going to get you that relationship that you really wanted from those people.
Yeah,
for sure.
Just to hop in for a second. I mean, I think that you said it right there at the end. It's like my favorite phrase, but it's like, how do I get invited back to this thing? Right. And then I always think that anytime I'm invited to like a business conference, or I get invited to a mastermind, somebody invites me to speak, at their group or whatever, I'm like, how do I get invited back to this? What are the things that I need to do to make sure that I've addressed the host? I've shown them how appreciative I am of their time, show them that I'm here to give value. You know what I mean? Like, and I think about those things so that way I'm invited back. Right. And I don't know if that's like a repressed Asian thing where like I didn't have a lot of friends when I was growing up because I lived out in the country, but it's just like, I've always thought about that when going into new situations. And that's always helped me. The second thing I would say is I like to think about the second conversation, not the first. So like, meaning like, kind of like what you said, Dylan, where the conversation that happens for not necessarily between me and you, but like between you and your friend, right, about me. And so I always like to think about that. And so when I'm having conversations with people, when I'm dealing with them, I remember that, oh shit, this person has friends, and these friends might be people that I want to work with, right? And so I want to make sure that whatever they have to say is at least nice, at least neutral, but in general, I want it to be better, and it tells people how awesome I am and that kind of stuff, right? Because people are attracted to those character traits, and character traits are one of those intangible things that it's hard to sell on. Like, for example, like I could tell you I'm super confident, right? And I could present a certain way, but like, how do you like tangibly define, confidence, right? Well, you're going to see it over time because you're going to see it kind of through my actions and different things like that, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's, I have a buddy who, I'll play games with him and stuff, but like, just growing up, I don't like bringing him out to drink with other people, because when he hits a certain level of alcohol, it's like a catastrophe. like embarrassingly so, where it's like, oh, I don't know if I really want to go on this trip and have him with me and to meet, with these other people, because if he hits this one limit, then it's going to be a nightmare. And, that's the image and reputation that he has. Right. So, in those type of environments, now think about it this way. What if he was an entrepreneur and in business?
Right.
Right. And you're at a social event and stuff. And if that's your rep, how to go, now you could be missing out on opportunity because he's not. But just for example, if that's your reputation and something as simple as drinking and you can't control yourself, right now you're missing out, and other people aren't going to want to, you have a bad rap in just that one category. Right. So maybe it's just understanding, what situations. I think a good exercise would be is just like, if there was a situation to where my friends or my colleagues wouldn't want me there, what would it be? Right. Like, say something that could be like, embarrassing or something, or maybe they're just not good at that skill. Like, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's basketball, right? You could make, I'm not that great at basketball. They could be like, oh, I really want to go net with these guys, but Dylan's going to embarrass the hell out of me in basketball. So I'm not going to bring them. Right. And now I don't know what that thing is, but I feel like everybody at least has that thing, and there's things that you can control and what you can't. So I think it's just being aware of yes, it's important to not care what other people think, but if it's something that's going to harm in terms of reputation, then it matters. So it's just kind of having the judgment call of like, okay, should I care about what they think in this certain case? Does this matter? Does it not matter? And so like, how do you guys feel of being like what can you guys do to separate the two? Right? How can you make a judgment call of like, okay, these people perceive this about me? Because it could be a haters gonna hate situation, or it could be like, well, no, this could be a bad reputation, right? So where do you find that fine line?
Man, that's a good question, because I think it comes back to like, what are you trying to do in life? Right. And then by you speaking to people and talking about some goals that you have, and then people look at the actions that you're doing from a day to day, are they congruent? Right? Do they line up? Do your words line up with your actions that you're doing on a day to day basis? And then is your intention really there? Right? Some people aren't really like 100% honest about like what they're trying to create. For example, the individual that we talked about earlier, who stood up in my group, right? He's not sure essentially what he really wants to create, but he knows he wants that type of environment and feel. And so what the reputation that he's built essentially, right, is trying to talk to a lot of women, right, and leveraging business as a way to talk to them. And so it's like your intentions is incorrect, right? Because you're talking about business, but then your actions are dictating, oh, I'm looking for a relationship. Okay, cool. You can't mix the two. Right? Like dating and business can bleed together if those are upfront and transparent. But if it's not made known, then people don't know what to expect from you. And then you say one thing, you do another, and now people are mismatching the message from what you're saying to what you're doing.
Yep.
Right. And they're like, okay, this is obviously not what this person is actually wanting to do. Right. And so one of the biggest things that, we do for our business is that we provide a safe container for entrepreneurs on public speaking, right? Yeah. It's that like, we know what it means to public speak. Doesn't matter whether you're male, female, doesn't matter what race you are, right? If you're trying to be a professional and you want to be taken seriously, right, then you have to have some sort of confidence when you publicly address people. And that bleeds into other things that you do, right? And so the biggest thing is that like nothing, the way you articulate yourself is how you can define yourself as how professional you really are, right? And if you are, the better you're able to articulate and communicate, right? And then your actions line up the same way. Well, people are like, okay, cool. This person obviously is walking the walk. Like he's not just doing one thing and saying these things. Like they're actually being built. They're actually being created. People are saying other things about him, right, behind the scenes, right? There was instances like up and down the street here where I've had people who would come to the networking group and just randomly pop up like on the other side of the street and wave me down, right? That lets me know that I've built a pretty decent reputation about myself, that someone can look at across the street almost a block away and go, hey, Fung, so good to see you. And then I walk right up there. I walk a block and go, hey, what's up? Good to see you. I didn't know you were here. What brought you out in town? What are you doing out here? Oh, I just got my headset on, walking up and down the town, bebopping along, and they see me in my different elements and like they're willing to wave me down. Like that lets me know that I've built a good reputation. If you see someone in public and they do this whole like side eye thing, right? Like, oh man, like I should probably reevaluate myself. Like, why did that person do that?
Yeah. Don't want to associate and be like, oh crap. How do you know that person?
Yeah. You don't need to, don't want to hurry around the corner. Like, oh, we got to go. Like,
so
that's not the feel you want.
So y'all said with this individual, it was in terms of awareness, you said middle. Okay. You said like kind of like middle aware. Like, so what do you mean by that? Does that mean like that like it's been brought up, like he's 100% aware that this is happening? There's like no like zero awareness whatsoever and just doesn't care and just going to keep going about it? Or and has it gotten to point, because like, just for context, everyone knows like, yes, like Fung and Wally are very, they're friendly individuals and stuff, but like there is a level 10 Fung and Wally to where if there was ever a conversation that would need to be had, like, trust me, Fung and Wally would, be like, especially if it was like, other people around or could be something that could affect their event or their business, they are very quick to have that very stern conversation. So has it gotten to that point where you guys even yourselves had to come in and have that sternness?
No, I would say for me in particular, this individual doesn't, his presence doesn't necessarily affect anything that I'm doing.
Yeah.
In fact, if anything, he helps me. I shine even better.
But yeah, really.
But so my immediate thing is just with this person, I don't hang out with them. Like they don't get any extra amount of my time other than what's necessary, if that makes sense.
And you kind of get in what you put in. So to kind of piggyback off of Wally a little bit, right? Like the individual, like, we're speaking of the conversations that we have, right, are always, if they're like 2 to 3 minute conversations, then they're not meaningful conversations, right? When someone asks you like, how are you doing? And then you just walk away, then that means they know that those interactions aren't going to be like really long. So for like this one, it's like when we have conversations, they're very pointed. They're very like straight to the point of like, I'm going to ask you for advice instead of like ask you how things are doing on your end. Right. And that's a big part of like, building relationships in business, right? It's like, you want to know how those people are doing in their day to day. Are they good? Right. That lets people know that you care. And then they're like, okay, cool. I can talk to this person about more intimate things, whether it's my business or it's personal. Right. It really doesn't matter in that sense, at least in my opinion. When you're honest and upfront with that, then you're like, oh, okay, cool. At least this person is asking me questions and can actively help me with certain things. And we're kind of like it's like a soundboard type thing, like we're an idea board, right? We're able to bounce things off of each other, like even in those 15-minute interactions. And so, but with this particular case, right, you can tell in the conversation, like fishing, right? And then after a while, you kind of pick up on that. And so then you just like, it kind of just rubs you the wrong way and leaves a bad taste in your mouth, or you're not like, I don't want to associate with this. Right.
Yeah.
So
well,
at this point,
in terms of awareness, like, the good joking industry, network marketing, right? They talk about how you always have the party guy, the barbecue, every time you invite friends over, next thing you know, you're putting the disc on the TV, and they're like, I just came here to watch football, man, and at the parties, and they always have to go and do the pitch, right? Which is breaking frame. Yeah. Right? Kind of same thing what you guys talking about, right? Going to give help and advice to a female, and then all of a sudden you're, maybe you're hitting on them or doing whatever, and then that's what you're known for. But even if I was the network marketing guy in terms of that, I would still want that as terms of like feedback, someone to come up to me and be like, look, man, like people don't want to come to your barbecue stuff anymore because every single time you invite us over for football and every single time you invite us for barbecue, like you're always going and just pitching your stuff, right? We really just want to hang out and enjoy and not get pitched. And as feedback, I just want you to know that people are aware of it, and that's why no one's coming anymore.
Yep.
Right.
You're in the growth mindset, and you're willing to take that step. You're willing to admit that you're wrong. And I think that's the biggest problem with most people, and this particular individual is that they won't necessarily see their actions as potentially wrong at all. It's it's like the halo effect for themselves, if that makes sense. So
yeah.
so
But as feedback for those listening in, right? For those characteristics, like how do you know that? Right. I'm just playing devil's advocate, right? But so how do you know that it's in terms of not, or what kind of warning signs do you guys see so other people are aware, right, of that person wouldn't be open to feedback or not have a growth mindset? Like, is that like actual, like you've seen these specific characteristics, or are you assuming?
oh no, I know those. I know these characters exist for sure.
Okay. Okay. What would those characteristics be for those that are listening in as like a warning sign to look out for people who, maybe there's are people close to just have a bad rap and you want to give them that, but you're just like, oh man, there's no way that they would accept the information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think the first thing is being okay with admitting that you're wrong, or that you did not make the right decision, if that makes sense. That's the first one. Generally, I'm speaking about this particular person, but this also applies to a lot of people. Yeah. But generally, if you can't admit that you're wrong, then that will cause a lot of issues for you in your relationships, because you'll always try to defend your position, right? You're always like, oh, well, like, but no, it wasn't like that because of this, or, oh yeah, so-and-so happened, so it's like this.
I know people like
oh,
that.
well, like, if you can think about it from my perspective, da, 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 da. And I'm like, dude, you're just making excuses, right? And so like being okay with being wrong, and then being willing to make the changes to then correct that behavior, right? And so I think that's the first thing, is just that ability to admit that you're wrong. The second one is idea input, right? Meaning like when people give you ideas, if you notice that people stop giving you ideas, then you probably are not receptive to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because it's just wasted effort and energy at that point.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna go anywhere. So yeah, so I mean, essentially, in a nutshell, they're just not coachable at all.
Mm-hmm. Right. They're just not being willing to admit that they're wrong is, I think, probably the biggest one. Going, instead of being like, oh, you know what? Damn, my bad. Like, you're absolutely right. I actually should be thinking it this way. But like that comes from a growth mindset, and you've had to have fallen on your face a lot and received a lot of feedback in order to get to that stage. Right. So some people don't take failure as feedback. They take failure as like it's the worst thing that's going to happen to them. And if, I should just always justify my actions because I'm not a failure, right? Because I can do all these things. It's like, no, dude, like we're all failures. Like failure is just feedback on doing it differently. And that's the whole point of like why you're doing the things that you do in general, right? That's what that gives you integrity as a person, because you're willing to accept that feedback, and you know that you make mistakes, and then you're able to work as a team. And then people are like, oh, this person I can work with, or this person I can do business with, or this person I may be able to be in a relationship with, right? Like,
and then the aversion to feedback, right? Also the flip side of that, right? Where it's like, It's like not just that they don't take it, but they run away from it, right? Like feedback is given. Oh wait, no, that's just how I am. I was born like this. I can't change that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the aversion to is definitely a big one too. It's like, oh, this is just how I am as an individual. This is how I am. I've always grown up and thought, and this is how I've always been my whole life. Like, really?
Is that something that was actually said, or is that just a joke? Did someone say that?
Yeah, people have definitely said that, bro.
No,
it's said.
That's not jokes. No embellishment here. I know I'm a marketer, and I do embellish a little bit sometimes, but no, there's no embellishment here.
That's crazy. I was just born this way. Sorry, I can't do anything about it.
Right. That just shows you like
this is just a trigger for me. Like I can't. Yeah, it's just a trigger for me. It's like I get it, but like you can do something about your triggers. You can do something about these things. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, everyone has to remember, like, you only get one, right? You only have one life, right? You get one reputation. I mean, like, okay, the caveat to that, this isn't like a religious thing. If you believe you have multiple lives, okay, that's cool. But in the one that you are in right now, you only have one reputation, and that's what you're going to be known for. So even in a future life, you're going to be a different person or whatever, and you can work on that reputation then. But right now, you only get that one shot. So reputation is everything.
And it takes a long time too, right? Like once you've got that bad mark on it, right? It takes like 3 times the amount of time to fix that bad mark, right? Like That's what a lot of people don't realize is like people always remember the negative and the bad things that you do more than they remember the good, right? They will
Yep.
always remember that one, how you made them feel that one time. They will always remember that.
Yep. That's why when we preach integrity first in the military, but when we go out to like public settings and stuff, kind of rules is they don't, obviously if you're out like as a unit, you can go like to bars and stuff in place. But if you're ever out like as a civilian, outside of work hours, they wouldn't allow us to wear uniforms out in public in bar settings. Reason being is because of exactly that. We can do as much good for the community in the military, repping the uniform and the brand as much as possible. And people were grateful for it, like, going and serving your country and everything. And it just takes that one fucking asshole to go and do something stupid in uniform. And then that's how everyone perceives as the brand for everybody else, no matter how much good it is. Right. It just takes that one instance that can do so much damage, which is why they were so strict on it, because they're like, it's not worth the repercussions of one young, 19-year-old who's hammered in uniform making an ass of himself or herself. I'm not going to be sexist, either or. That'll ruin it for everyone, right? So it's true, right? It just takes that one negative occurrence, and you'd be surprised how much that can affect somebody, especially in terms of motivation. Yeah, like I'm in this. You want to know what's crazy? I went to, my parents were just in town, and in order to park their hotel, it would have been for the day longer than 3 hours. The hotel said to VIP it'd be $50. It's like $50. Oh my, that's freaking insane. And that was anything longer than 3 hours. So we went to go and get parking, and there was a lot that was outside, and it was $25. And then next to it, there was a sign, and by I don't remember what the hotel chain is. There was a parking garage that said $20. So it's 25 and 20. This guy was sitting outside, and I was like, yeah, that's so cool. You are side by side, there's a difference in price. So the guy knows the owner, and get this, the parking lot that's next to them, that's outside in the heat for $25. The owner used to own it, but by law, a portion of sales you make from parking has to go to the city. Because the city wasn't making enough money from it, they came and confiscated it from him. They literally just came in and they stole it right from under him. Government stepped in, like, nope, this isn't profitable, we're taking it. So guess what this guy did? As a fuck you to the city, he went and made a deal with the hotel, bought the rights to use the parking garage, which is, inside, and lower the prices to steal the business from the city who fucked him, to bleed them to the point where they'll give it back to him.
Wow.
Right.
Wow,
So
what a move.
Right. So I was sitting there, and I remember talking to the guy, because he was talking about the owner. I was like, damn, wow, revenge is like a really powerful fucking motivator. Of like, okay, cool, you're going to do this. Like, I'm going to go take these actions. The customer's going to get a better deal. I'm going to bleed you guys, and I'll just keep lowering my prices. I don't give a shit until you guys give me this back, because you guys basically screwed me over. Right. But in terms of reputation, city has a bad rep, right? They're greedy as hell. Right. And no business. And what happens? Like, a lot of people and entrepreneurs don't ever want to like deal with specific industries, because they know either the government or the city is going to screw them. Right. Look at marketing and stuff by like people like Russell Brunson, who talk about, I don't want to deal with investors and stuff, like, self-grown, start from zero, because, the hassle, the politics. And then you have a board of directors. And then what happens to board of directors? They can cut you out of your own damn business. Right. Because that's the negative reputation that it has. But it's just so interesting to see how, like, when that happens, how revenge is such a powerful motivator to go and feel like, I'm getting this back and I'm going to screw you to the utmost intent. So just know that if you do have a bad reputation, and you do what kind of Fung says, and you have that one bad time, that one slip up, depending on the grand scale of what it is, you could be motivating that person from that screw up to come back with a vengeance, and using revenge and hatred as motivating factor to come and crush you, right?
True.
In terms of business.
I mean, one of my biggest fears, and I've said this before, but my biggest fear is a billionaire decides that he doesn't like me, and that he wants to make my life miserable with 1% of his capital. That's like one of my biggest fears, because that's like $1 million to your misery, which is a lot of money to make you unhappy.
Yeah. Yeah. Just imagine it. Like, you want to go to shake hands, and then, one phone call, a guy could be like, hey, here's $100,000 a pop. Just be like, all I asked for you the whole year, you see this guy, you never do business with him. That's my one rule. And you spread the word, right? For $100,000, like, okay. Right.
That's it. It's over. You're done.
Yeah.
Just takes one. Like that. Just takes one.
Yeah. It was, I saw it. I think it was Ty Lopez that said it. He said that in terms of levels to the game, he said the 300 million marker was the levels to the game for it. Like he said, if there's anyone you never want to piss off, he's like, it's a 300 million plus. He's like, literally, like, that is not someone you want to get on their bad side, that you ever want to like rub them the wrong way. Like, they have enough money to where it will not affect them to make your life a living hell. And it happens all the time. So we said that, I was like, damn, okay. Point taken. Don't piss off someone doing 300 million plus. Keep the reputation high.
Reputation good. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Integrity and reputation.
Absolutely everything. So key points of today's episode, guys, knowledge boner moments is obviously reputation matters, right? Be aware. And if you're not aware, I would say go to people around you and then just ask. Be like, hey, and honestly, in a setting, for personal feedback, have a growth mindset and say, hey, is there a case where, you would think that people wouldn't want me involved because of this? Like, what's something I can work on to be aware of in terms of reputation that I can get better at, so that it doesn't affect me in the future, right? Be aware, be open to feedback and criticism, and always have integrity and that customer support mindset in business of doing right by your business partners, always doing things and going above and beyond if the deal goes wrong to pay them back. Right? It can be something as simple as that, right? Having a reputation of, if something goes wrong, you will always do right and get them money back, even if you don't have to. Even if the legal paperwork says, okay, it was risk, right? That's the type of reputation you definitely want in a business setting, right? Doing right by your prospects and your customers, no matter what the situation is. You don't want it to rub them the wrong way and have that negative connotation go through and hurt you. And just doing right in general in terms of integrity, right? If you can do that and have positive reputation going in your favor to where it's not hurting you, you're going to be set up in the long run. And then never piss anyone off that's doing over 300 million a year. Don't make Wally's fear of pissing off a billionaire come to life for him or for you. So I hope today's episode was valuable for you guys tuning in. Kind of seemed more of like a knowledge boner gossip episode, which is pretty cool that it turned into of a specific individual. So that made it a little fun. But hope this was valuable, and we'll see you guys on the next episode of the Knowledge Boner Experience. See ya.
Yeah, thanks for having us.